Welcome, beautiful friends, to the Way of Mastery. Will is here with a nose on. That's a great way to start. That's a great way to start, my friend. I'll join you in that. So, we've had a great time with the Way of Mastery so far, and tonight we're going to wrap up the first lesson. And there's some incredibly powerful messages in this first lesson. You know, if you're building a house, you have to build a very strong foundation before you can build anything else. And this lesson lays the cornerstones and lays 4 cornerstones, one of which is that we are creating our own experience, and we always have been. We're not a victim of anything outside of ourselves. The other cornerstone is love allows all things, trusts all things, embraces all things, and is therefore transcendent of all things. Jeshua reminds us that we are perfect equals, that the power of His choice is no greater than the power of our choice. So that's 3 of the 4 corners. And the 4th one is choice. It's all choice. He reminds us over and over we are free to choose as He chose. So those are the 4 cornerstones that He laid in this first lesson that we're going to wrap up with tonight. So real quick, I mentioned this before we went live, but we have little pieces of paper and pencils if you have questions. We have so many people watching now on the internet that they can't hear if we call out questions. So we'll try and do those at the end if there are questions that remain unanswered. But a couple of other themes, just to kind of bring us up to date with what we've covered so far. In each moment, you cannot be a victim of what you see. Nothing is outside of you. This nothing is outside of you is huge. When that pebble hits the bottom of your pond, a revelation or a realization is going to come of cosmic proportion. When you realize that nothing is outside of you. And what you experience, you have directly and deliberately called to yourself. That's a tough one for us to accept, isn't it? But when you realize that, yep, you have been doing that, you will have extraordinary power. What if you achieved a maturity along this pathway in which you were finally willing to let things be just as they are? How much peace would you have within your being if you no longer felt like you needed to change things? Wow, it's beautiful. Give it a try. And he reinforces the message that truth is always true. This is what he meant in the Course in Miracles when he said you need do nothing. The truth is already true. Your oneness with God already is. The only thing we need to let go of is the idea that we're not one with God. And we create an enormous amount of doing in order to attempt to undo what really hasn't happened in the first place. So, and then last week he asked us to cultivate a deep love and respect for yourself. Boy, we even feel guilty sometimes loving ourselves, don't we? Because love is the only thing that will heal. Okay, so we're up to date, and we're going to get started with the Lord's Prayer. We've been having so much fun with the Aramaic Lord's Prayer that I added a bonus tonight, so I hope you enjoy it.
Avun de Boshmaya, Nita Kadash Shema, Tete Malkuda, Neve Sidinach, Akina de Boshmaya O Baraha, Haulan Lachman, Zunkanan Yalman, Boshwoklan Halbin, Akina Dapanan, Shwakin Nil Hayabin. Ula talan el mission, el passam membisha. Met had lachim el kuda, uhaila, utish bhakta. La alam. Amen. Amen. Shmaya, need Gadash Shema, Te Melkuda, Yahweh Sedina, Akanad Washmaya, O Badaha, Halan Lachma, Sumkhan Yamana, Washwoklan Habin, Aikana Dapanan Shwakin Hayabin, Ula Talan Mission, El Pasan Isha, but all the lucky Melkuta, Uhaila, Utishbota, La Allah, Amin, Amen.
Isn't that beautiful? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to finish up lesson 1 tonight, the way that calls us home. You don't have to believe a word I say. I would actually prefer that you not. If you like what I say, think, that would be really cool to experience. I want to know it like he knows it. Don't let your mind trick you into a new belief and stop at belief. Go beyond all belief so that that which I will share with you, that from the consciousness from which this originates, is your experience, is your direct realization. Please don't let the mind play those tricks on you. I'm only adding depth to this lesson so that when your mind reads it, the mind that reads it usually is our egoic consciousness, unless you're reading it as source. That's a trick for you if you want to do that. But that mind is designed to not reveal the full depth of it. So I'm illuminating that for you. If it works for you, great. If not, throw it out. In the last paragraph last week, he said that this pathway, for those of us who choose it, and he said it's not for everybody. But everybody has a path. Isn't that great? Every raindrop's going to make it back to the ocean. Every raindrop that perceives it's not already the ocean. Important distinction. But nonetheless, just for a second, sit with that. That no matter how you perceive your being, whether you believe in reincarnation or not, that you have found, after potentially eons, the straight and narrow path that leads you home. That's cause for celebration deep within your being. And if you've gotten this close, I can assure you the end is well in sight. So, are you ready, Cindy? Okay, here we go with picking up where we left off last week.
For is it not written that you must again become a little child to enter the kingdom? The little child simply marvels at all they see. Well, how about that? Can you imagine looking upon the deepest, darkest parts of your own shadow, your own denials, and being able to say, "Oh, how about that? Remember then that everything is neutral, and in truth, all that which arises within your consciousness has no effect upon the truth of your reality. The way of the heart, then, is a way of cultivating the decision to become identified with the light that can shine away all darkness, not by fighting with it, but by recognizing it, embracing it as your own creation, and choosing again. The way of the heart is the way that I teach. And now we begin a more focused, shall we say, year-long study, a year-long cultivation together, that the way of the heart might become established within your holy mind. And we will be drawing indeed upon many sources, and there may be some surprises, according to who may choose to speak to you through this vehicle.
Be like a child to enter the kingdom. Wouldn't we all like to just cast off all our heaviness, all our burdens, all our responsibilities, and just start laughing our way home? We've made this separation so serious that we think we actually have to do something about it. And of course, that only perpetuates a belief that we actually did separate, and then we get heavy about it. But imagine looking at your deepest, darkest parts of your own shadow, that which you know is there but you do not want to see, and looking upon it with innocence and saying, "Oh, how about that?" Would the fear have any dominion over you any longer? And I assure you, the power exists within you right now to look upon any fear, whether it seems to be within or without, and say, how about that? And that was certainly my experience as I walked the path, and he cultivated with me a greater and greater ability to witness as we went deeper and deeper and deeper within my own consciousness, to see my own shadows of where I had believed all of this was real, and look upon it with innocence, not to engage it, not to fight with it, but to recognize the power of you as light in your recognition that you are light will dispel the darkness. When you walk into a dark room and you turn the light on, there's not a conflict that goes on for 15 minutes to see who's going to win. The darkness simply disappears in the presence of light. And you are the light. We have become misidentified with the shadow, with the darkness. But I'll remind you again, at any point when you look within, if you can see something, if you can see darkness, what is looking at the darkness? What is looking at the shadow? You have mistaken your identity to be that which you look upon, but you are the infinite light of Christ. Playing with, I'm going to identify with what arises within my consciousness. A couple of paragraphs before, he said, that's the insanity. Not that we chose to dream the dream of separation, but the insanity was in coming identified with the darkness. You have to be the light to see. That's the light of consciousness. It's the light of isness. It's the light of being. You can't get away from yourself in that way. But you can identify yourself in any number of ways. And nothing that arises within your consciousness has any truth on the reality. I think I talked about it a few weeks ago. There are symbol after symbol after symbol. You know, there's this infinite sky. Storms move through the sky, but the sky remains unchanged. Waves go on the ocean, but the ocean remains unchanged. You can take a glass and fill it with milk or fill it with water, fill it with anything else. The glass stays the same. We just are identified with all this crazy stuff that moves instead of the ever-present, unmovable, unchangeable source of being that we share as one. So the way of the heart is a way to cultivate the decision to become identified with the light rather than the darkness. We only became identified with the darkness through a decision. It may be so deeply suppressed in your awareness that you think you didn't choose any of it. But I assure you, you did. You wouldn't be having the experience. So again, he's reinforcing our ability to choose. Not fighting with it, recognize it, embrace it as your own creation. Who is willing to look on their darkest part of their shadow, the ego, that we vilified and say, it's nothing but my own creation, created out of my infinite ability to create just because I could. You have that power, and it is nothing but a decision away. In the dialogue last week, or the movie, they were having just many events, I forget, I talked about the parable of David and Goliath. Goliath, big Goliath, fear. Represents the darkness that seems so huge. Here's little tiny David with one tiny stone. And with that one stone is choice. He felled the giant. And the choice is for love. The choice is to be the light and look upon the darkness, and it must disappear in the presence of light. And you each have the power of decision right now, and nothing could ever take it away from you. If your civil rights were taken away, if you were quadriplegic, would you still not have the choice available in your mind to look upon that with innocence? The thing in the Course in Miracles, what is real cannot be threatened. There it is. The kingdom of heaven is your ability to choose from an infinite variety of experiences. And you can choose asleepness and dreams and darkness, or you can choose awakeness and peace and love in Christ. But you can never lose that power, because it is free will given to you of the Creator, created in the Creator's image. But rest assured, God has free will. And so do you, because you too are God's. The way of the heart is the way He teaches. And isn't it a beautiful one? I mean, it's one of responsibility. It's one of power. It's not one of you have to subjugate yourself to something outside of you, that you've got to give a lot of money, or you've got to do a bunch of stuff, or you've got to pray for years, or you've got to suffer and sacrifice in all these crazy ways. Many people tried to distort His teachings in that way. But He's saying it has nothing to do with that. The truth is true right now, and you're a decision away from it. One decision made absolutely wholly away from realizing it. And that's all He wants to do, is to help that truth become established in your holy mind. And there are some beautiful surprises in this pathway, but you have to stick around or follow it on your own to see what those are. You ready?
But rest assured, at all times and in all ways, I have committed myself to gently directing the birth and manifestation of what you have come to call Shanti Christo. The idea was given by me, and what I give, I nurture, and what I create, together with you, I do not abandon. Therefore, you will find that I will be here always. We have yet to see whether you will be. Remember then always that the truth is true always. Is it not time, beloved friends, to truly step into ownership of your own reality? The way of the heart does not know the word avoidance. The way of the heart does not know deception, manipulation, or control. The way of the heart does not know blame, although it watches these things arise as echoes of old patterns now outgrown. It learns to see them, to recognize them, like you might recognize certain kinds of clouds that pass through the sky, and then to turn the attention of the mind that a new choice might be made.
I am eternally grateful to my brother and friend for being with me the whole way on this pathway. And when I wasn't with him, it was only because I had untied the rope around his waist and I had run off to play myself. But this is, he was in charge of the atonement. That's what he called it in the Course in Miracles. He's saying the same thing here. Shanti Christo is just the peace of Christ. Shanti is peace. Christo is Christ. Christ's peace, the peace of Christ. His only desire is that each and every one of you know that you are Christ, that you are the perfect thought of love and form, and for you to realize that same truth. And He's always gently directing us. He won't come busting, knocking the door down in your consciousness. That would only create more fear. But to the extent that you let Him in, He will take up residence. And I can assure you He's a fabulous roommate to have in your mind. So let Him in. It's time to step into the ownership of our reality, or our illusions, however you want to look at it. But we first own our illusions, and then we recognize we created those from our eternal state of reality. There's so much emphasis in the world about creating your own reality. The truth is, you have always been creating from your infinite reality. And I don't know if any of you appreciate the degree to which we had to pull off the manipulation of our own cosmic consciousness to pull this deception off. But we used an extraordinary amount of our divinity to actually do it. But He gives us clues to look within your own consciousness, and He will drop these pebbles like crazy. How many of you know the word avoidance and have played that game out in the world and within your own consciousness? Many of you right now, I can feel there's darkness that you have been avoiding that you know is there. But see, the way of the heart doesn't know avoidance, because the way of the heart knows truth. And in truth, there's nothing to avoid. Love allows all things, trusts all things, and embraces all things. It doesn't know deception or manipulation or control. And what He's alluding to there, isn't that really the special relationship? Where we want to love somebody and we put a box around it and say, this is what it's supposed to look like. We're trying to limit an unlimited being and call it love. It's ridiculous, but we do it all the time. And He's saying, of course, the way of the heart knows not blame. If you want to blame someone else or God or the devil or the ego or whatever, this pathway is not for you. But you can go out, there's a world of 7 billion who are playing the blame game. But no blaming consciousness wakes up into the truth. You're welcome to do it. I did it for a long time, and Cindy was my favorite target because, of course, that was my special relationship. But at some point, you'll bring that back within. And again, He gives us this beautiful metaphor of the sky. For a while, old thoughts may continue to go through your consciousness. Depending on how deeply and with how much Christed power you choose again, you may still see old thoughts. But can you look on it and go, that's a bygone era. I don't believe that anymore. I don't think that way anymore. It doesn't matter that it's here. It has no significance. Like toys outgrown. And again, he's probably a third of the paragraphs in this whole first lesson. Again, he says a new choice. Choice, 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 choice. And what he's saying, that he doesn't come out directly and say, is that everything that you have experienced must be as a result of your own choice. And we're so deeply invested in our victim story, we don't want to accept that, oh my gosh, I made the choice for this horrific thing to happen, or made the choice for, genocide or whatever on a global scale. We're so frightened from that because we perceive that there's going to be punishment that we're reluctant to take that level of responsibility and choose again. But that choice is always available. And I would encourage you to make it. Because if you recognize that you had the choice to create in that way, the mind may not drop the pebble in, but I sure will. Then you have the power to undo the whole thing. If you have the power to dream, you have the power to awaken. If you have the power to create separation, you also have the power to create oneness within you now. Can't come from anywhere outside of you. Remember a couple paragraphs, there is nothing outside of you. So all of those of us who are waiting for awakening to come, you're looking in the mirror of Christ and you're sitting there waiting for the mirror to smile first. And you will wait on your awakening, and you will wait on your awakening, you will wait on taking responsibility, you will wait on stop blaming until you think that mirror has to do it first. And you can wait a very long time. But as soon as you smile, what does the mirror do? It's not a delay. I mean, it's instant. It's not like the mirror contemplates for a moment the authenticity of your smile or the degree of willingness in your smile. It just responds. Love waits on your welcome. That's out of the Course in Miracles. You're welcome. I mean, I'm using this symbol of a mirror so you recognize your cause, not effect.
The way of the heart is the way that calls you home, and the call comes from that deep part of your soul that is still likened to the Spirit, which abides as Christ in the holy mind of God. Trust then that you are a sunbeam to the sun, and trust not the perceptions you have cultivated in error, for you are not alone in the way that you journey, and you journey not apart from your brothers and sisters. This family cannot know separation, though some may seem to come and go. For once the call to awaken through this lineage has been acknowledged, though bodies may not communicate in space and time, rest assured, communication remains, and there's no way to avoid it.
Cindy, I'm going to go ahead on that one. I'm going to work this one from the bottom up. When the call to awaken through this lineage, the Christ lineage using this pathway, and he'll talk about it several lessons down the road, but when you participated in the first lesson, which we're completing, you went through he calls it an initiation, a quantum leap in your consciousness. And in that willingness, an enormous amount of resources in terms of, you can call it angels, Christed consciousness, support, whatever, is poured into your beingness and is available to you to aid in your awakening. You are and have been never alone. But in authentically choosing and saying, I will walk this path, every being that has ever walked this path to enlightenment is walking it again with you. Every single one of us. Because that's our only function. Because we don't fully awaken until everyone awakens. Everyone. So you are getting an extraordinary amount of help. And he calls this lineage, this is just but one. He'll talk later in this course about many other lineages in other parts of the world. And you can recognize cultures need their own pathways. You know, they just do because they're cultural differences. And that's perfectly the way it is. You know, Native Americans who were very into nature, there's a beautiful pathway there for them through nature. So he's not by any means saying this one is special, but he's saying this one works for you if you choose to walk it. And this reference to you journey not apart from your brothers and sisters in the Course in Miracles, there's this beautiful thing where he says, brother, I can't go without you. The recognition that it is a family, and he's got family in uppercase because what is one is one. What is Christ is Christ. What is created by God is unified and cannot be separated. So in truth, we can't. And that's what you're going to realize in your own awakening is, oh my gosh, it was like that the whole time. And it was my misperceptions that created the whole thing. He asked trust that you are a sunbeam to the sun. And all he's saying is you can't separate from your source. You just can't. And maybe you haven't experienced it. Maybe you don't know what that's like. But are you just willing to trust? And all trust is, and he's not asking you for blind trust. He's not asking you to jump off and take this extraordinary leap of faith. Trust is just another willingness. Trust is like the welcome mat before the next stepping stone. It's your willingness to say, I'll lift my foot and put it down even if I don't know what's there. That's trust. You don't have to create a huge belief system and try and create some orthodoxness or something within your consciousness and then start to follow it. Trust is just willingness. That's really all he's asking. And the more you trust, the more that gets reinforced. So boy, am I joyful about the way that calls us home. And thank you for making the choice to walk this pathway. And you don't have to walk it all the way in. You're welcome to walk through 4 lessons and then go play some more and come back. Every one of us that did the Course in Miracles usually puts it down, sometimes for decades. And you're free to do that. Nobody's going to judge that any way, shape, or form. But peace awaits you.
And so we begin the way of the heart. We enter now where it's time to stop listening out of polite kindness or out of curiosity and step into the willingness to don the mantle of that one committed to healing every obstacle to the presence of love that may yet remain secretly hidden in the depth of that part of your mind which would struggle to be separate from God. And to remember that you are truly the light that can come to shine lovingly on every aspect of darkness you have known.
How many of us went to church for a really long time out of polite kindness? My mother pulled me there by my ear, but I had to sit there in polite kindness. And how many of us on spiritual paths have kind of done the spiritual buffet and moved around with some curiosity? Oh, well, what about, I know that I did that, some Buddhism, some Zen, it's like I was thinking I was spicing my own kind of cake. All that was really denial. Our Papaji, who was a beautiful sage in India, said one time, why do all you Westerners come here? You have your own religions, you have your own pathways. Why don't you just walk them? Instead of coming over here to try and find something. The truth is there. The truth is where you are. Just walk your path. So join on this pathway if you choose. But it's no longer about window shopping. It's no longer about looking through, wow, what would enlightenment would be like? Would that be fun? I don't know. But to truly don the mantle of one committed to healing every obstacle to the presence of love that may remain secretly hidden in the depth of your mind. And I can assure you, for every one you think you know is there, there's a bunch that is secretly hidden that you don't know. That's why it's great to have these beautiful guides that walk this pathway for you, because they know where all those things are hidden. And they'll flush them up into your consciousness when you're truly willing to heal every obstacle. And this is what he said at the beginning of Course in Miracles. You need not seek for love, because that can't be taught, it can't be created. You just need to seek for the obstacles. Every single one of them. Every single one. You don't keep just a wee bit of darkness for that next time you go home for holidays with the family you don't like being around, that you can pull out and wear that just to be a little resentful or a little blameful. You don't need any of that, because you are the light that can shine lovingly upon absolutely everything that was ever dark. And when you transcend your own darkness in your own story, you'll then transcend the totality of darkness. You'll transcend the humanity story, the whole dream of separation. And I can assure you at that stage, you'll do nothing but chuckle at the prospect that darkness can do anything to you. Survival will never be a question, because at that stage you know you're not the body. The body is just a tool. You'll have experienced your infinite beingness, and then you can truly walk this world in peace. You can be in it, but certainly not of it. Walk through the valley of the shadow of death, but you will fear no evil. And you'll bring light to it. And all of a sudden people will start showing up on your doorstep like they've shown up on this doorstep and say, what is the deal with you? Help me find the light that you found. And it's fun to share it. It really is. Because all you have to do is tell people, you're innocent. You've never done anything wrong. You're loved completely as you are. And the truth is true right now. I mean, we don't get that message in a lot of places. Sometimes we get our pockets picked before we get a short list of things that are wrong with us that then someone or some doctrine can help us fix. So then maybe we'll look glorious enough to earn God's love. We've been using God's love the whole time to create this crazy game. You've got it already.
So along this pathway this year, you are going to learn how to shake hands with the devil and do a little jig with him and recognize his face to be your own. For when you can dance with the darkness that you have created, that darkness is transformed into an angel, and light abides with light. We will be giving you and bringing forth certain meditations, if you will, certain energetic practices to help cultivate within you a quality of feeling that will allow you to recognize energies that do not serve you in a way that transcends what your mind may choose to think of these energies, so that you learn more and more to lead with the body, if you will, to lead with your true nature, not your intellect. For your intellect does not know anything except the trivialities that you have shoved into it, like garbage in a garbage can. The intellect can never bring the healing of the heart that is the atonement. It can only be utilized to argue against the insane perceptions you are used to, so that you might come to see that perhaps there is a greater good in giving up your insistence on treating the intellect as your God.
I just love Jeshua's sense of humor. And if those of you who follow this pathway and listen to these channeled teachings or read them, you will get to understand his sense of humor. He doesn't take any of this seriously. And he's asking us to dance with the devil. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but when I was little, the devil was somebody you didn't want to see. And if you did, you were in deep caca. You were in it really deep. And of course, he's saying that's nothing but your own creation, your own shadow that we had to create in order to have this experience. And do a jig with him, and then it becomes an angel. That which was caused that was created to create the separation is then seen as the very evidence of proof of God's love, of our freedom to create. And when you embrace yourself on that level, and he referred to it a couple of paragraphs, when you truly love yourself, even for your ability to create insanely. Wow, how good were we at doing that? How good were we at doing that? And light will abide with light. When your eye becomes singular, which doesn't mean that the darkness has gone away. There's that beautiful yin-yang symbol in Zen, the dark and the light with a spot of each. It's not that all of a sudden it all becomes light. It's that you are that infinite field of awareness in which the whole dream of light and dark is being played out within you. And you enfold it all in love. You're the very power that is powering the whole infinite being of consciousness, at one with the Creator, co-creating the whole thing just because we can. So it's not about fighting your darkness. You're just giving an illusion that you created more power to scare you. And you're giving it the power. That's the ironic thing. You're welcome to just embrace it. And you'll see it disappear. The beautiful meditations and energetic practices he gives in this pathway are incredibly practical and incredibly simple. It's none of this, you've got to sit like a statue and not move for days on end. It requires so incredibly little because the truth is already true. It's really, how long can you stop denying the truth? That's what the meditations are. He asks for 5 minutes a day. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. And it's an incredibly powerful meditation because all he's asking to do in those 5 minutes is for 5 minutes, be the truth. Be the truth. Be Christ. Abide as Christ. And he talks about leading with the body. For a lot of us Course in Miracles students, we've so vilified the body that the body's not real, the body's the home of the ego, the body is an image created within the mind, but nonetheless, it can be utilized like everything else we created to help take us home. Because the body has an energetic component, an energetic faculty to transmute energies that the chatterbox of your intellect doesn't have. And I love his thing. Your intellect is like shoving garbage into a garbage can. He talked earlier in this lesson, haven't we made our intellect our God? And don't we do that by every plaque we put on the wall of how smart we are and how many awards we've gotten and that voice that goes in our head? And he's saying that's like garbage in a garbage can. I just think it's hilarious. I was pissed off the first time I heard it. I was like, dude, I don't appreciate that. I don't appreciate that at all. But the intellect can never bring the healing of the heart and the atonement. Because the intellect was that which we created to perpetuate the separateness. Because do you all not perceive that you have your own intellect? Well, then that has to be one of the factors that we created to perpetuate the separation. The heart only knows oneness, only knows unity. So trying to get there through the mind, the intellect's deep need to understand, and its perpetual pursuit of understanding is its fear of its death, because you're going to realize in an instant at some point that it's not even real. And then you'll no longer identify with its musings, and they will be musings at that point. So, and again, a beautiful symbol within Zen about beginner's mind kind of taking out the trash, not believing your thoughts, clearing your mind out, purifying your consciousness. But you can use it. If you want to use the mind with its beautiful, logical, this means this equals this equals this equals this equals this. He offers axioms in this course in the same way he offered principles within A Course in Miracles to get you to use the mind to eventually realize it doesn't even exist in the way that we think it does. He turns the mind back upon itself using, in his way, it's not overt self-inquiry, it's kind of subtle self-inquiry. And the mind comes to realize that it has no eternal isness. It's just a collection of thoughts and beliefs. So, we're done with treating the intellect as our God. And it's really something when you think about it. That intellect that wanted to be one with God and that protested over and over, I get it, I get it, I get it. Does that intellect know how to create a cosmos? Does that intellect know how to grow a flower? Does that intellect have enough presence to keep your heart beating without exception for more than 3 minutes? No, of course not. My intellect couldn't remember a grocery list between here and Ingalls or a phone number. So just look how deeply within your intellect that intellect is wanting to know. It has no capacity, zero, to know the truth. But your heart already does. That's why I've said many times, the ego never wakes up. You just identify with that which has always been and has always been awake and could never be anything but awake.
Therefore, indeed, beloved friends, dance often, rejoice, play often. Let this year be that year in which you bring up within yourself everything unworthy of the mind of Christ, every thought of scarcity, every sense of unworthiness, every fear. Let them come up. Look at them. Embrace them. Transmute them through your own love of self and through your honesty. Accept where you are and don't pretend to be otherwise, for the wisest are always the humblest. Be you therefore at peace, beloved friends. Be you therefore at peace in all things, for we delight, and I speak here of the many we who are in what you might call a disembodied state, who are electing to participate with you, that are asking to be helped this year through this way. We delight in joining with you. We delight in loving you. We delight in waiting on you to welcome yourself home.
I'm going to again work this one from the bottom up. How many of us have prayed like, if it's not too much trouble? And I know the cosmos is a really big place, and when you've taken care of everything else that's really important, do you have just a minute to hear my prayer? He's saying they delight in joining with us. They delight in loving us. For God's sakes, throw open your being and let the fullness of that love and delight join with you. Why not? Why not? They delight on waiting on you to welcome yourself, capital S, home. In the Course in Miracles, it talks about God will take the final step. It's you! When you realize it, you take that final step. It's not like, I know many Course in Miracles students, 20-year studiers. I'm waiting for God to take the final step. I'm waiting, and I'm thinking, I'm waiting for you to realize you're God. And then, of course, you'll take the last step, the step of sanity. Out of insanity into sanity, out of hell into heaven, out of time and space into eternity. But they delight in joining with us. That's what creation is the joining. So all those times you feel reluctant to ask for help, they're sitting up there going, shit, if they'll just ask. I'm here, I'm ready, I'm willing, come on. He has a beautiful teaching in one of his Jeshua letters later on that's way after this course, where he talks about demanding it. And why not? Moses didn't stand there and say, hey, God, some really bad people are chasing us. And if you're not too busy, so be there, ask. Love is trying like crazy to love you. Love is waiting on your welcome to cast open your whole being and say, I don't even know what welcome is, but to the fullest extent that I can welcome, I welcome. And if I don't know how, teach me how to even welcome more. All of it. All of it. And you will get to know, it depends on how open you are as to how open and freely you will allow them unfettered access to your frequency or to your consciousness. But I can assure you they're having a grand time. And it's a fun game to play with them. They'll join you in your own healing and in your seriousness, but all they desire to do is get you to put one of these on. And to know that the whole cosmos, all of eternity is about play, dance, and rejoice. That's what the kingdom is. It's not about drudgery. It's not about effort. It's not. That's all crazy stuff that we made up. So, you guys ask. Should I give you a moment to consider it now? Because it's a choice. We'll just take a moment. I'll listen, see who's asking. All right, so those of you who just said, how will I know? Ask. Say, I need you to come in a way that will eliminate doubt within my consciousness. If you haven't developed the capacity to feel and perceive very subtle energies, then ask them to come with a power that you will be able to sense. And if you're uncomfortable, if you've never experienced that kind of energy within your frequency, that might scare you. But well, then ask, give me a sign, show me that you're here. Use the world, use billboards, use music, use somebody else talking to me, use every faculty that you can so that I absolutely know that you are on the job and that I am not alone in this and that they've got you arm by arm and will walk you straight through the eye of the needle. So this year, after all that great stuff, you still got to let your stuff come up. You can do it quickly. You can do it effortlessly. You can do it with lightness and with humor. Or you can take a long time and you can have everyone come up and you can investigate it and you can look back through time and you can consider what happened to your parents' parents that caused your parents to do to you what they did to you. You're welcome to do that, but you don't need to. You don't need to get into psychoanalytic babble. You just need to look on it, own it, take responsibility that it is your creation, and you don't want to play with that energy anymore. You love yourself for creating it, you embrace it, and you let it go. I mean, it's like a fast food wrapper. You know, when you've finished consuming the burger, you don't take the wrapper and make a plaque out of it and keep it, and you just throw it away. And that's really what those memories are. They're no more significant than that. Even our great ones. I can share with you that someone else around this work woke up recently and she was expressing to me the joy of how her consciousness had been purified. She could look back over her memories, and those that were joyful memories were even more joyful and more rich and deeper. And that those were negative, the memory was still there, but there was no emotional charge to it. So don't fear that you're going to lose anything that was love. You're going to realize it in an either great or loving way. So it's not like you need to go within your consciousness and try sorting clean and dirty laundry. Just throw it all in the washing machine and let it all be purified. Who would be doing the sorting anyway, I wonder? So just go all in if you want to. But every thought of scarcity, every sense of unworthiness, and every fear. That's a long list for most of us. And if you really start looking within your consciousness, you'll find that there are many thoughts that you think, many things that you cherish, which you don't really believe are unworthiness or fear. But if you look deeper, you'll find that they're attached to you with that body, so it has to be fear. Transmute them with your own self-love and honesty. It's only the ego that's going to deny it. Christ has nothing to deny. There's no judgment from the Father. There's no judgment in the kingdom, so there's nothing to deny. Yeah, I did a crazy, mad idea. I believed it. I created insanity. I played it deep and hard. I felt unworthy. I projected like crazy on everybody. I was even mad as hell at God. That was our dream. That was the point. Big deal. Everybody did it. There's no judgment about it. Be willing to let it go. But be honest about it. Don't be in denial. That's not going to help you at all. And don't pretend to be otherwise, and the wisest or the humblest. If you've got something that you want to hide, it's got to be fearful. And you got to fear that you're going to lose somebody else's love or God's love. Quite the contrary. God will slap you on the back and say, way to go. What a great play you played. What a great time you had. What do you want to go do now? Do you want to stay and teach and help and love, or you want to move on to another cosmos? Whew, this is so much fun. I'm so glad you guys are here.
Therefore, indeed, we will begin to end this message for this hour now. But as we close, I would ask that you would close your eyes for just a moment and take a deep breath into the body and let it go. As the breath leaves the body, hold the thought that there is nothing worth holding on to any longer that keeps your peace and happiness at arm's length. Become committed, become fully committed to the experience of happiness, even as you've been fully committed to unhappiness and limitation and lack. Give your Creator full permission this year to sweep the basement clean. There really isn't anything down there worth defending or protecting. And it will come to pass that you will know the perfect peace of empty-headedness, not knowingness. You will know what it means to be relieved of time and to be comforted by what is eternal.
Well, let's take that. Let's take a moment, close our eyes, take a couple deep breaths. And just hold the thought that there's nothing worth holding on to any longer that keeps peace and happiness at arm's length. Even if you said, I can't be happy until awakening. Be happy anyway. That feels great. Become fully committed to the experience of happiness. Of course, in A Course in Miracles, he said, God's will for you is perfect happiness. Perfect happiness. Not happiness when you hit the lottery, not happiness when, it's nice weather, perfect happiness. You're free to be happy all the time. Something bad happens in the world, you're free to be happy. You don't have to jump on the world's definition and say, oh my God, what a horrific thing. You're free to be happy. You have the power to choose it under any situation and under any circumstance. And you don't need to jump on anybody else's fear bandwagon that said, oh my God, everyone's scared, so I have to be scared. Be the one at peace. The one at peace and happy. Give your Creator full permission to sweep the basement clean. Didn't say you sweep the basement clean. Because remember, you need do nothing. Because if you perceived you had to go sweep the basement clean, then you would be perceiving that there's something down there that is real and has to be undone. What he's referring to here is God doesn't see your crazy illusion, so there's nothing to be swept clean anyway. Are you willing to see it from the Creator's point of view? I hope you don't harbor any fantasies that God has bad days and is unhappy. That's not the case. Certainly not. And you're welcome to be perfectly happy, transcendent of time and space. And that's what he's talking about here at the end. You will come to know what it means to be relieved of time and be comforted in is what is eternal. And when he said, I will not leave you comforted, that's what he's referring to. Your eternalness can't be anything but comforted, but comfortable. That which is the fearful, scary, egoic, that's left uncomfortable all the time. Haven't we all experienced that and been pissed off that Jesus didn't come to console our egoic fears? Well, that's not the point. Then this separation would never end. But luckily, it has and it will. Empty-headedness and not knowingness. When you're done with yourself, love itself will come to inform you in ways that you can never imagine. And not just in cosmic transcendent experiences, but in subtle ways of knowing who's calling when the phone rings, or reminding you that you forgot your keys, or reminding you to send a text to so-and-so, they're having a bad day. Helping you make the choice of what's the right car. I mean, there's nothing that love won't do because love's doing it all anyway. And it really becomes the flow. You're just carried along. You don't have to worry about anything. It just is effortless beingness.
Peace be unto you always, and never once let yourself think that you are alone. It is what they call, what is this word you have? Haberdash? What is this haberdash? That's an interesting term. It is nonsense for you to think that I'm not with you. You have asked. I picked up the phone. We are in communication. That is the way it is. That is the way it will be until the end of all illusion. Amen.
Amen. You guys know what amen means? So be it.
What, in Aramaic?
I don't know. It just means so be it. So be it. Because as Christ, He's decreeing this is the way it is, period. And what the Son of God decrees as Christ is. Haven't we all tried to decree as our separate individual little ego? And we're shouting it. That's the gnat shouting at the universe. So are you picking up the phone, metaphorically, to talk with Him? I mean, I know when this work started, Marion told me, someone's like, someone's like, he's not really talking to Jesus. He will talk to you. I mean, you can have very open and candid conversations. And of course, He can have that conversation simultaneously with what seems like every being. So it's not like you're using any of your time, like you only have a little tiny allotment and you better get your damn questions together and have them ready and, compress so that you can make maximum use of that time. He is always with you, always. And to the degree that you're open and willing, He will strike up a dialogue with you. All until the end of illusion. That's a pretty big promise. I mean, we're talking heavy hitter here. Son of God, change water into wine, raise the dead. That's pretty powerful stuff. And I can tell you He's a great companion. You like music? He'll play a little Jesus jukebox in the background for you. You want a more formal relationship? He'll gladly do that. He'll meet you where you're at. I mean, He's infinite. He'll use the infinite power of His consciousness to talk to you as Mother Mary or bring Mother Mary along, whatever. But use the help. It's there. You're not asked to walk this thing on your own. You're welcome to keep trying. But I'd get on the short bus and take the easy way. It's a whole lot more fun that way. At the end of this, He answers questions. Thank you. Cindy's given me a little time. I get up here, and of course, time means absolutely nothing when I'm doing this, so I could go on and on and on and on. But he asks, there are 3 questions that are answered, because when these channelings started originally, the people that were there would ask questions, and of course he would answer them. So there are 3 questions. There's about 20 minutes. I can either paraphrase them real quick, or we can actually listen to the question and answer. I'll leave that to you. Okay, here we go.
What motivates you? How does an enlightened person move throughout his or her day? Apparently you have moved into a state of oneness with Source, yet you still have a distinct, unique personality. You are still a self, yet you are also one with God. Can you describe what the state is like for us?
Beloved friend, what motivates me? Worldly accolades. Being hung on so many walls in so many churches across the world. All of the many priests and ministers who make a very good living professing to teach my teaching, although they teach fear and guilt and judgment. What motivates me? The bets that I have placed with my comrades in arms, who often believe that I'm wasting my time with humanity. For there are indeed many masters in many dimensions that wouldn't touch this plane with a 10,000-foot pole. Yet I say unto you, beloved friend, I speak somewhat tongue-in-cheek, although I don't have one. What motivates me is what must come to motivate you when the Christ mind is awakened within your being and has come to outshine any other possibility. For what will motivate you is the deep appreciation for the grace that has healed your mind. The great mystery from which you have arisen that somehow reaches into your illusions and brings you home. You know not how. Love of your Creator will motivate you as you become more and more empty of self, empty of fear, empty of the need to survive, empty of everything unlike love, and more conformed to the instrument of peace. Beloved friend, what motivates me is the very fact that you exist, and that at times within you your soul has cried out to come home. And because my Father has brought me home, because I know how perfect it is, how can I not extend myself to you? So to my many comrades who seem to wish to avoid ever taking on the human experience, I simply politely nod my non-physical head and say, well, yes, but you see, I know that no one goes home until everyone goes home. I am merely your brother, and I seem to have gone ahead of you a little while. Yet I say this unto you, the way of the heart must cultivate within you and will the recognition that there is no one and nothing outside of you, and that only love has the power to heal. And therefore, everyone that comes into your life is an aspect of your Savior, teaching you to cultivate the forgiveness, the patience, and the willingness to hear not the voice of ego within you, but to trust the guidance of the Holy Spirit in all matters, regardless of how insane it may seem to the world. What motivates me is the grace that released me from all illusion, even as that grace is already at work, accomplishing the same within you. What does it mean to go through the day in an enlightened state? I would be happy to tell you, only I have no days. For a day is a function of time. Time is something I no longer know anything about. It is not something that pervades my beingness. I abide only in what is eternal. And when fear has been completely uprooted from within your beingness, you too will know timelessness. There's a message in that answer. I hope you're listening. Beloved friend, what is it like to be one with the source of all creation, and yet to hold an individuated consciousness? Why not ask yourself? You know perfectly well. For in reality, you are one with the source. And again, as the message of this hour has shared, you are acting from your infinite perfection at all times to call qualities of experience, qualities of energy to yourself. That is exactly what I do. The only difference is I have chosen to call only that of the highest possible vibrations, while you are choosing to say to yourself and to me, well, yes, all that bliss stuff is fine, but I still like to get a little taste of drama and suffering. I just want to make sure I've got this down before I leave this plane. In all respects, the choosing mechanism within you is equal to that within me. Therefore, understand well, if you would know what it means to know you are one with your Creator, while yet exhibiting an individuality, simply begin to observe your own mind, your own choices, your own experiences with perfect innocence, constantly reminding yourself that the truth is true always. As a sunbeam can never escape the sun, as a wave can never escape the ocean, you remain as you are created to be, and you are given infinite and perfect freedom because you are made in the image of God. Therefore, beloved friend, consider well what you would desire and what your intention will be. Ask yourself moment to moment, what am I truly committed unto? For what I am committed to is the focus of my intention. And the intention that I focus on brings to me the fulfillment of my desire. And what I am experiencing, like it or not, is always the effect of my desire.
Woohoo! You gotta love his sense of humor. You gotta love his love. Yeah, because if you guys took me seriously, then you'd miss the whole point. So it's a reminder. Okay, question number 2. Would you please? Well, she'll read it, but he's going to talk about sexuality. Of course, that would have to come up. Who in this room is free of any guilt or shame around sexuality? Now, we all got bags and bags of shadow on that one. And the world is great at cultivating that. But he's going to share with us his perspective.
Would you please comment on the role of sexuality in sexual expression for those of us committed to a path of spiritual evolution?
Well, indeed, beloved friend, if you would be committed to a role of genuine spirituality, You must put that which is called I believe, the chastity belt upon the body. You must separate yourself from all those who seem to elicit little tickles of sensations in your body. You must banish from yourself all thought of another body next to yours. And if these things arise, by all means, whip yourself. Beloved friend, I've said many times that all events are neutral. All experiences are neutral. They will be there for precisely what you choose them to be. Sexuality in your world, most minds take this to mean that there is some sort of juxtapositioning of physical bodies, some groping of the hands and the lips and the tongues and what have you. But indeed, this is only the outer reflection or the symbolic expression of the energies being held within the mind. It is most appropriate to say that all of creation is an act of sexuality. It is an expression of energy which wishes to birth forth with great passion creation. And all relationships, whether it be between two bodies or between the moon and the sun, between the earth and the sky, all forms of relationship are inherently the same. They hold within themselves the promise and the purpose and the challenge of discovering the unity between the two or the three or the 10, it doesn't matter. Therefore, sexuality, as you understand it in your world, is only what you will choose it to be. It does not necessarily accelerate your awakening, and it does not necessarily impede it. What you approach with sanctity and purity of heart, what you approach in every relationship, what you approach from the recognition that creation streams forth only from the mind of God, and therefore the light of love, the presence of Christ, is present in that one before whom you stand, or perhaps whom you lay next to. What you approach with sanctity is sanctified. What you approach with secretness, what you approach with neediness, is demoralized and destroyed. I would say unto you, beloved friend, you cannot transcend what is not first embraced. Therefore, search the soul well to see if there is any fear of the great intimacy and vulnerability that can be experienced in sexuality. Is there something in you conflicted that is not allowing you to truly drink in the beauty of the physical form of another, to pause over every curve and every dimple, and even every little hair upon the body? Can you see within this grand mystery? Can you pause long enough to lose the false self? Can you sanctify the touching of flesh? For I say unto you, you are the creator of what you experience. Sexuality is a grand thing. Let no one tell you that I avoided it when I was a man. After all, that's the whole point. I was, after all, a man. But I sanctified it to keep it holy. And sexuality can be experienced in its totality merely by looking into the eyes of another and setting yourself aside and asking only to see the face of Christ. For sexuality, the great longing within humanity, is to find some method, some way to transcend the fear, the guilt, the deep contraction which is ego, to find some way to slip through the cracks and experience some momentary bliss of the unity of oneness. But I say unto you, cultivate the reality of your oneness within yourself, and indeed you will find that all relationships, whether you be with a body, with a blade of grass, or with the wind that touches your skin, will feel like a sexual experience as long as the body lasts. Let then this energy fill you.
Yeah.
Feel the bliss and the pleasure and the joy of sensuality and sexuality. See it happening all over the place on your planet, because without it the planet wouldn't even exist. Beloved friend, have you not ever watched little children who run naked through the fields and play with their genitals without the least bit of thought? They derive from it a moment of pleasure, and occasionally they may touch each other. There's no judgment in this. There is only innocence. And the adults look and go, oh, well, isn't that cute? And some of them go, oh my good. Charlie, please cover that up. You can't do that. Mary, put your dress back down. Why? What is the adult afraid of, if not life itself? And make not of sexuality a specialness, but rather cultivate within it the sanctified state of consciousness in which you are deliberately choosing to set aside yourself to let Christ love Christ. Sexuality is a rather good thing if you choose to use the power of your beingness to sanctify it, that it may be holy. For what is holy gives rise to wholeness. And what is fragmented through fear, through guilt, through neediness, through mere lust, what is thus fragmented leads to fragmentation within one's consciousness. Bless sexuality. Let it become sanctified, and set aside all of those incarnations you held as a nun in monasteries, listening to false ideas out of someone else's fear of the body. It is only a communication device. What would you therefore choose to communicate through your experience of sexuality? Be at peace, beloved friend, and while the body lasts, my suggestion to you would be, enjoy it.
Wow, can you imagine a world if that had been the truth of the teaching of his that had survived? Can you imagine? Wow. But there, again, with everything else he does, there's so much depth in that. And I'm going to illuminate a couple for him because I had to transcend them within my own self. One, he talks about all events are neutral. And you give sexuality all the meaning that it has for you. And he gave you many, many suggestions there about how to look upon it in a way that would bring healing and sanctity and beauty to it. But inherent is that in that is the absolute willingness to let every other being give it whatever meaning it has for them. It is not your responsibility to create any perception in another, and they are free to look upon sexuality or the world or anything in any way they damn well please. They are Christ, and quite frankly, how dare any of us to say unto God and another, you should not think or believe what you think or believe. Every one of us has got issues with sexuality. Every one of us, because we grew up where it was secret, where it was bad, where it was shameful, where we had to be sneaky about it and all kinds of other stuff. So do your healing, but leave everybody else's business be theirs. It's not, they're walking their own path. They are absolutely sovereign and free. Let them make the choices they're going to make. But he also talked about coming to wholeness within yourself. In our true nature, we're not man or woman. We're one whole, infinite being. So in awakening for me, I had to fully come into wholeness, not only with masculinity, but with femininity. And as the barrier started to drop around my identity as a man and I started identifying as spirit, I had identities that were tied to masculinity, because that was the primary energy of my incarnation, as you're each experiencing whatever your gender is. But the wholeness that he refers to is when that becomes one within your being. So if you look at ways in which you identify with your particular gender energy, and you in any way perceive that as better or the way it should be or whatever. I mean, the battle on this planet goes on all over between men and women. Aggression and reception, the whole thing. Because within creation, they're perfectly equal. Absolutely perfectly equal. The void that was the feminine and the thought of God project into the womb, and bam, there's creation. It's not like the womb rejects the penetration, and of course the penetration, it has to be equal and perfectly equal and absolutely joyful. That is the fundamental nature of creation. So I only share that with you so that as you walk your own path deeper, that you look even beyond healing what you perceive to be your individuated thing about your sexuality. Because he's inviting you to wholeness, which is completeness, which is not male or female, which is not, aggression or reception, which is whatever. I mean, whatever names you want to put on those, it's the wholeness of the two. And for me, in this incarnation, I grew up with women. I have a family full of women. I was, put in those situations so that I would see and be exposed to, because it's an issue I needed to overcome, the beauty of femininity, the beauty and the power and the perfect equality that is in women, that is in that divine feminine. So in awakening, you come to embrace the whole of it, and you're whole within. You're not, so you have incredible flexibility in your beingness. So I share that with you, and drop that pebble in your pond if it's helpful for you as you walk your own path. And then the last one, briefly about healing as it speaks to in A Course in Miracles.
The statement is, I understand healing as Jeshua speaks of it in Course in Miracles. Yet what needs to occur for bodily symptoms to no longer be in one's experience?
Beloved friend, as I have spoken of healing in that text, which you know as A Course in Miracles, is indeed the fundamental definition of healing. By considering it, it must flush up within you all of the deeply held hopes and prayers and beliefs and need to have healing be something that also manifests the perfection of the function of the body according to your desire of what that perfection should be. What is necessary then for the removal of physical symptoms? The miracle. But the miracle is not something which is under your control. Listen well to the message of this session, for I have indicated already to you and deliberately indicated the answer to your question, and you will find it there. For rest assured, beloved friend, when there arises within the mind the hope or the wish that a physical symptom would leave the body, there must already be the enactment of an ancient belief that the body is what you are, and that therefore dis-ease of some kind, as you would call it this, limits your ability to extend love, to communicate with all of creation, and to be at peace. You may rest assured that when my many friends saw me with a crown of thorns upon my head, they thought, oh, poor loved one. Out of the belief that certainly spirituality must mean the power to overcome everything the mind has judged as a dis-ease. The point that I'm seeking to reach with you is an attempt to dig deep within the depth of your psyche, to bring to the surface with you an ancient belief that true spirituality is recognized by all absence of disease, and that if you were truly whole, it would never arise within the body. Yet I say this unto you, what if every moment of your experience was literally being brought to you of the Father, who alone knows the perfect plan for the healing of your mind? Remember, it is not possible to transcend what is not wholly loved. Therefore, place the attention on deepening the love of self, the exploration of the experience that has been called to the consciousness through the form of dis-ease of whatever kind. Learn to look upon it with the perfect innocence that you would look upon anything else, and see through it, to see that it does not limit you in any way from being the unlimited presence of love. It is not a weakness, and it is not to be compared to what may appear to be a diseaseless body, for the eyes of the body do not show what is within another soul. Beloved friend, there is a part of you that carries an ancient tear. Let it be released, and healing will come.
So healing comes when we heal our mind that misperceives our identity as the body. So when we're seeking healing for the body, of course we're saying, this is what I am. I am the body. Well, not. But we give that prominence over the recognition that we're infinite beingness. And this body is merely a communication device to extend love. And I don't know about you, but I've seen some pretty sick people extending an extraordinary amount of love. So that which truly needs to be healed is the mind which perceives itself as the body and needing the body to look a certain way because it will look unspiritual if you're unhealthy. And this is rampant in the Course in Miracles community, or wanting it to be a certain way because you don't think you can be happy if it, the body, not what you are, is in some state of discomfort. So, wake up. I mean, my experience in awakening was that all that stuff just left the body because I didn't need the body anymore. It wasn't a home of specialness. It was just a tool that love was going to use, and I think love's having a great time doing it. I'm sure enjoying it. So here we go. Next week, we're going to listen to Lesson 2, You Create Your Experience. He's going to answer 2 questions at the end of that, one about Mary and one about 40 days and nights in the desert. No, this is about Mother Mary. He will address Mary Magdalene later on. So any questions or comments tonight? Beautiful. Yes, it does. She asked if the course has a textbook, and it does, where these channelings have all been transcribed. And that can be purchased on lulu.com. So if you go to lulu.com and you search for JM, which is Jayem, he's the channel. Sure, you can take a look at it. Yes, hold on a second. Let the mic so the people on the internet can hear your question.
Thank you.
Nice to have you back, by the way.
Thank you. That book that you just showed us has the question and answers in it also?
Yes.
Thank you.
Has the full channeling and the question and answers. And it's 3 books. This is the Way of the Heart, which is the first 12 lessons. It was channeled over 3 years. There was the Way of the Heart, and then the purple book is the Way of Transformation. That was the middle 12 months. And then the Way of Knowing is the last 3 years. So we'll take as long as it takes for us to get through these. But it's beautiful stuff because it's this personal, because it's all his spoken word. This is how he taught all his disciples and everybody else when he walked the world. And it's done with just this beautiful directness, but yet humor, but relentlessness about what the truth is. It's magnificent. So announcements, the love offering is on the other side of the fireplace. Cindy, would you put that one up? For those of you who are watching online or will watch later, if you go to onewhowakes.org, in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a little give button. If you click on that, you'll be directed to PayPal, and you can extend as much love as you want. You don't have to have a PayPal account. You can use a credit card. If there's anyone new here tonight, you can sign up for the One Who Wakes email list. If there's anyone online, if you go to onewhowakes.org and scroll all the way down to the bottom of the homepage, you can sign up there. There are some cheat sheets, or cheat sheets. There's nothing cheaty about Christ, but this is the highlights from the lesson 1. There's some sheets over there if you want to do it. Take one home. So, I come with a great, great heavenly host of beings. It would be really sick of me to get up here and try and do this by myself. But luckily, I can't be by myself. Nor can you be by yourself. We love you with an absolutely infinite, infinite love and a perfect peace. All you need to do is ask or demand, and we will gladly come. Peace. Hugs before everybody goes home, please. Beautiful friend, thank you so much for watching. The way of mastery is truly indeed the pathway given to us by the Master himself, Jeshua. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you're so moved to give a love offering, my family and I would joyfully welcome it. You can see there on the screen our website at onewhowakes.org. In the upper right-hand corner where that red arrow is a little give button. If you click there, you'll be directed to PayPal and you could put in a donation, and we would certainly appreciate it. Peace be with you.